Greetings, it's Joyful Hermit. Well, I still want to do confessions. I have more research to do, and I had to run some errands today. Just 3 places, but it was just the jiggling in my truck, which is the most comfortable vehicle I've had because it sits so high up off the ground, and trucks have great shocks, and their seats are built. The driver's seat is built extra strong in a truck, a pickup truck. So precious blood is wonderful for me. Best vehicle I've ever had for driving. But since the L1 and T11 and T12 discs are bad now, right above my Fusion, which goes through the L2, the discs above have dilapidated. So just that little bit of sitting in the truck and driving just locally really jacked up the pain, really raised it up. So I and yesterday or the day before, I guess, I sat in a chair and it made my back worse. And yesterday I think I did a revise of that video, and it made it even worse. I sat in a different type of wood chair, so I'm back on the bed now. But I have sort of an amusing in a way, but it's a reality one that I'm trying to discern and understand. In the my spiritual being, in the world that's spiritual and other people who are spiritual, how I reacted and how I could change reacting, or even how the players would react. Because I watched a pickleball match this morning on YouTube, and it was my daughter playing with her partner in the English Open. So it was very interesting to watch, but it was the playing, that the match itself was very more aggressive, very aggressive playing. and it was just strange. So I observed as I was watching 2 of 3 games they played. And it was just fascinating for me to try to put it all in conjunction. A pickleball match, mind you. And it didn't matter who was playing, really. That's the only reason I watched, was my family member was playing. And I like to be supportive and all. But the 2 people who were the opponents played very aggressively, were like really bashing the ball at their opponents. And the one team was ahead at first. It's more of a strategic team. And then the team, though, that came from behind for 2 games, so they won 2 out of 3. Or no, 1-1-1. Then the ones that did the bashing really hard, hitting the ball. And just aggressive, very aggressive, and sort of nonstop barrage of the pickleball. They're plastic and round with little holes in them. And then a regular paddle that looks like an oversized ping pong paddle or a small tennis racket, but with a solid face on it, to understand the sport a little bit, to imagine, see it in our images. So the 2 women were playing very aggressively. And then the second game, though, my family member and her partner won that one. But they had to play one more to see who would win 2 out of 3. And I think they won. Maybe they would have won one. And the very aggressive players just whack, 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 and rush. And so they won the third, not by much, but they really, no, I think they won quite a bit that one too, the last one. So they ended up getting gold, the opponents did, and my daughter and her partner got silver. But my interest in it now is, since I have had that transfiguration experience last Tuesday on the 6th of August, my interest and what I want to learn is how my reaction was and how I can understand something as and you guys too, some of you might play pickleball. I don't know. It's a fun and wonderful sport, good exercise, and people really have a good time playing. It becomes a social thing even for those who play. And if you're at the professional level, then the stakes are higher, and it's how you earn your income even. Not just the tournaments, but you teach lessons and teach clinics and things. But the third game, then there again, it was just all this whacking and bashing from the opponents, and then the other two opponents play from watching them, and I thought watched them before because my daughter's on that team with that partner. More strategic and with finesse, more like thinking of a chessboard or something, but their play is more focused on finesse, how to strategize to hit the ball in certain places and strategically play. But this other team went back in the third game to this very aggressive, fast, just whack, 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 even hitting them at the person. And and it wasn't even fun to watch. I noticed compared to like the second game. So I'm there thinking, trying to understand from the spiritual view. How would how am I viewing this? If I can take away from the players even the spiritual, and view them as spiritual beings who their physical matter of body was playing that aggressively. And then the others were playing a different style. And then in the end didn't win, though. They didn't win playing there, and they really couldn't even get to a point where they could. The first game, I think, took them by surprise. The third game, the other players, since they lost the second one, and my daughter and her partner were able to get into more of a finesse of the game, of strategy, and placing the ball in certain places and stuff. And it wasn't just this whacking from the one side that was aggressive, being very aggressive, physically aggressive, and bombarding with the ball. So the third game, then, it was the bombardment again. And I noticed, of course, there was some frustration on the part of the ones who lost, because the frustration, they could not get the type of movement turned around to where the goal or the process was finesse and strategy playing, away from the opponents who were into body aggression and bombardment of banging and bashing. And I noticed that the responding team, it made it very difficult to do any strategizing when you're being hit, even your body being hit with the ball, or the racket hit so hard with the ball that you can't control where the ball will go back. And it can either hit the paddle in a certain way that when you hit it back, the ball is coming with such force that it goes out of bounds or flies up and out of bounds, or flies off the paddle. And the one woman, that my daughter's partner, got hit hard in the nose. What didn't bleed, but I could tell it's very painful. And so that it wasn't fun to watch. And one time, though, they did have an exchange that went on longer, that my daughter and her partner could use strategy with. Got enough control, I guess, of the speed, and used their own finesse to angle the balls in what you would think was more interesting to watch. And the other team did win that by doing a bash back finally in the end, but it got an angle that they couldn't hit back. But for several of the back and forths within that one play, it was very fun and stimulating to watch, because they were using talent rather than sheer aggression. And the crowd cheered. Both sides. It didn't matter, who won or lost that point, because it was so well prosecuted, I guess you would say, or played. And but the rest of it, and but toward the end, it was getting very frustrating for the team that was trying to play strategy and finesse, because being hit that hard, and it's whoever starts that kind of play. And I know for a fact my daughter does not enjoy playing that way. It is a lowering of the sport in her mind, I think. I don't know her mind, really, I shouldn't say. But it is, I think, I could tell by the reaction of the crowd. It was like a rape, like, as opposed to beautiful lovemaking. It was like just forced. And one was aggressive, and the other was, in the one match or one game in the middle, that they were successful in getting the ball to go in certain ways that the others couldn't. If they could keep it away, make it so the others could barely even return it, if they were that strategic. Otherwise, when it got in control of the other team, they would just do this aggression play. So, and I even wondered if they have what's called hot paddles. I think they're outlawed right now. They're supposed to be, but it was as if the speed was like that. But it did also matter. It became a game of chance then, whether you had good luck or bad luck with being able to get it back, so the ball would stay in bounds, or not fly out from hitting your body or hitting your paddle in a wrong way. Or if you could get your paddle tilted just so that it wouldn't just practically rebound into the net, the ball. So it was very interesting, but I used it because I thought, well, now here I am spending this time because I want to be supportive. And I pray for God's will, but I ask a favor, please help my daughter and her partner, give them strength, give them all this. And there may have been other factors I'm not aware of, other than what I viewed with my temporal, tangible eyeballs, and the really miraculous way that God created our eyes, that we can see, and that our minds can hold images in them. And that our minds can also, our intellect can analyze and try to understand. But see, my understanding, and maybe you can help me, I thought maybe talking it over would help, because I reacted then after that was over. My emotions, that part of my soul, my being, came out, and my emotions were not happy. I was sort of resenting these two other players, and thinking, what fun was that to watch? It was just aggressive bombardment and ball banging. And then I thought, well, maybe the other players would have to, my daughter's partner is sort of known as a ball banger herself. But wasn't, she was making the same amount of what's called a forced error. When the ball's coming at you to a point where you're forced, where you make an error out of it being forced upon you, as opposed to an unforced error, am I saying it right? Means that you're making the error out of something you do wrong. So both of the, on my daughter's team, both of the women made forced errors. Yeah, that were forced upon them. And and both had some unforced, or whichever way it goes, you get it. That was truly their fault, and the other one was circumstance that ended up their fault, and they lost the point as a result. So, um, but I'm trying to practice in my everyday life lessons, schools. I consider it soul school lessons for me of how I interact in whatever I'm doing, how I perceive things, how I perceive people, and the activity, the experience of it. Um, so I see their temporal, tangible bodies, the temporal, tangible activity, a pickleball game match, and I'm trying to put it into the context of the spiritual, so that they are spiritual beings and and their souls are guided by different affects, and that also the devil is in the spiritual realm, is allowed in that realm to run interference, and the intellect, the will, the emotions, the understanding, memory, images, inner senses, feelings and things, and outer senses, reactions, like when the gal got hit in the face and the pain of that flipped off. And they, a couple of times, that gal, the one on my daughter's team hit someone by accident too. You don't, but you shouldn't aim, but if it hits a paddle and flips off, but the speed of it is such that it was dangerous, even though they wear eye gear. My daughter and her partner wear special eye gear to protect their eyes. Um, but and then me watching, and how I could relate, and then my inner emotions and even my outer affect after, when I realized it wasn't even enjoyable to watch that kind of playing. And of course, I sense my daughter especially. Um, when you're watching something and there's someone that you know personally playing, you tend to watch them more and their reactions. And I could tell she had become frustrated toward the end. It was like she was having bad luck one time after another. Just bad luck. She would return the ball and it would go wide or long. And she doesn't do that, obviously, normally, or she wouldn't be a pro player. But it was the force of the ball. It was hard to judge, um, how the ball was going to go back over, with what energy you put to it, or even practically just hold it there and it would just go wild. It flipped up. It hit her a few times, not in the face, but yeah. So um, how do we? This is a prime example of an ordinary temporal, tangible activity. We live in this world. We, out of love or interest, or God wants us to enjoy the world we're in the temporal and tangible. He's placed us here in life, wants our spiritual beings to enjoy things and to benefit from them, and to learn and grow also, and to be able to start seeing as God sees. So I got myself to the point that I recognized that I had lost love. I had lost some love for these opponents and their aggression that they chose. I realized that it's there again that we have to understand, use understanding, which is, as John of the Cross's diagram, is the very next, it's the closest level to the very inner, where our intellect and will are. The next ring out of our beings is understanding. That's the very next ring out. And then the next, it all goes from the very center of the highest parts of us, the highest and most holy parts of our beings, then goes out to where, in the outer is our outer sense, our external senses. And understanding and will and intellect are, let's see if I have it real fast, what it's called. The next layer out is our passions, I think, and then the passions is part of it. Then we have in the very inner, I think, is our substance or our highest, whatever he called the highest level. Oh, here we go. So we have the soul and the body. We have the intellect and the will in the middle. We have the internal senses, passions of the soul, and external senses. But John of the Cross, I think, altered it a little bit more than that. Anyway, you get the idea that we are more gross on our outer, more temporal, more gross, more the passion, more things that aren't fine tuned. Our soul in the center of ourselves is our soul with our intellect and will that's finely high tuned, and the only area that the devil can't get to. But our wills, we have command over our wills. One team chose aggression playing, and the other team was thinking they were going to try to play finesse and strategy, more a combination of physical and mind rather than body, rather than all physical. So that was a difference I could see. And I had to remind myself that not each of those four players would even perceive that they are spiritual beings, and that love of the game maybe didn't enter in as much as love of winning and getting a gold medal as opposed to a silver medal maybe was a stronger external sense motivator of why they were even there. Whereas maybe some of the others had a combination. Yes, they would like that, but that they are more highly tuned souls, maybe more evolved with awareness, even though they aren't consciously aware of the spiritual realm or their being spiritual beings, or of love of the sport, love of others, love of more mental game, more mental playing, more strategy and finesse, as opposed to aggressive. It's sort of like in war, the Art of War by Sun Tzu. That's a good book to read, just if you want to get a feel for how people react or how they interact in situations of win or lose. It's sort of a philosophy of war and how people are in any kind of conflict or challenge or interacting with each other. I read it years ago, and it's a general's guide from centuries ago in China. It's an interesting one to apply to our daily lives and to our spiritual lives. So I tried to review then this match from viewing each of them as spiritual beings and understanding they were in different areas of different self-recognition themselves. and choices that they had made, innately, even, not consciously, even, and the type of people they were. I right through it, as I held my rosary and was praying for God's will, then I realized, well, I need to pray for God's will for all the players. And that my daughter's partner is one who had really backstabbed her terribly a year ago, and did some things that were very just not the type of person that my daughter is. My daughter would never have done those things to someone behind their back. She thought this person was her best friend. And on the court, in the whole pickleball. And no, but my daughter forgave and moved on from it very quickly, much faster than I did, I have to admit. The mama bear in me had come out big time with that. You don't like your kids being hurt or taken advantage of in a mean way, or behind the back, backstabbing. So, and it did cause my daughter a lot of career issues for a while because her partner situation was upended. So she had scrambled around trying to find partners and finally has the rest of the year mapped out. But it was very stressful and everything. She handled it well. I didn't so much. So this is a kind of thing, see why I want to learn this and progress in love, in pure love, but also in understanding and grasping my spiritual self, and the world is spiritual foremost. And then learn by my own will and intellect, my own understanding, my own memory. We hold everything as memory, that I will remember then to keep learning and growing and progressing to more love, to more pure love, and understanding people and things. And as also to see them as spiritual beings at their different levels. And so I realized as I started praying for all of them to be in God's will and to consider God also, to even very subconsciously consider God in their lives when they're not playing. And the thought came to me, the thought came to mind. Thank you, Holy Spirit, that not all of those players are even Christian, or even or active Christians, or even think of God or ever pray, maybe. And that makes a difference in our lives, in our interactions with people, that we probably don't even consider when things go bad, when things go that we are in a, handling a situation such as playing a pickleball match, playing it differently, or wanting to play it differently than the other people. And I did think later, I thought maybe my daughter's own partner was giving her a hard time on the court or something. Maybe I don't know. She used to when it got found out, and it got old. She was sort of said mean things, and got very bossy and things. Not positive uplift, positive reinforcement, but all negative, and never thought that she did anything wrong. Was always blaming the partner, and they went their separate ways. That got too difficult to play with, that kind of thing, because the one player wants to have a uplifted type of experience and to enjoy it also, and to get that driven and intense where you're by snapping at your own partner, and not recognizing your own faults, that ceased to be enjoyable for one of the players. My daughter happened to be that way. And but she's that kind of person, and as I said, was far more forgiving sooner than me. I admitted it all along. I prayed, Lord, help me to forgive this other person, because they were such great players together. They were winning and silvers and golds all through, but their purpose was different. And the one became very driven, and also the ego got in and decided she was far superior. But see, I did sort of keep track of the errors they each had, because and noted that they were both very equal players, except the one can be a basher and banger player also. My daughter has remained more steady as far as enjoys the finesse and the strategy, but it can hit it really hard too. And made several points that way, but would place it just right, and didn't hit people to get a point. So it's just differences in people, isn't it? And I think if I keep practicing with this, you guys help me. In fact, doing these videos is sort of just having someone to talk it over with, other Christians who are on the same wavelengths or higher wavelengths than me, and can help filter it down for my more obscured and less evolved intellect. But I have the will to want to learn, and I have the I now have the understanding and the intellect to know that my my true self is spiritual, and it's truly in a progression toward more and more love and pure love. So when I realized that my reaction was really a rather banal level of love, was a very human and worldly kind of sense of, I did not dislike the opponents at all. I wasn't that bad. I've been there, that where you have an actual dislike of someone, but which, see, when we understand them as spiritual beings, and understand and can see as God sees, that their wills made a choice, an intellectual choice, to play that way, to win at all costs, and to use their bodies in that way. Relentless. They were relentless bangers. And then the other people are on defense all the time. And it's very hard then to get control, to outmaneuver, out psych, out strategize, and to use finesse. Plus also hit hard, because speeding up, dinking, they call it dinking. That's a slower play across the net, and then all to do a strategic speed up. But when it was all just speed, with the others, or they would get the ball then in a return and then do the banging, it threw off the way the other team was playing. And it took it to a level, though, that I knew one of the players doesn't consider utilizing the sport to a holy degree. So yes, so it can get into that aspect of viewing the sport, and this is what we can do in our daily lives if we have something like this come up, of how do we see it? Do we see what God gives us to keep us employed, to keep us active, to keep us with enjoyment? Because people play, it's the fastest growing sport in the world now. So are we using these things that God gives us to do, these creative sports or entertainments or embroidery or whatever, hobbies, cooking or gardening, all these things? How are we using these? Are we viewing them as spiritual, as gifts from God? And therefore we are going to respect them as gifts of God and use our higher selves, um, to and consider who's watching, such as the crowd. In the one play that went on and had combination of speed ups and slow downs, but in the end got the bash won, a final bash won that point, but the crowd, both sides stood up and cheered because it was play that was interesting and intriguing to the spectators even. It was pickleball being played at the higher level. And so anyways, it was interesting, all of that, but what I was disappointed in was my reaction. Also, I texted, and my family does not like they call it analyzing, but I'm just trying to work through. And now, though I'm trying to work through at a spiritual level, which I didn't get into with my daughter, texting that, I did apologize for the distraction of going through what I noticed that I didn't enjoy it, the crowds didn't enjoy it, and I could tell she was frustrated. And that it had become a game of chance. When you get into that kind of hard whacking and banging and bashing, it's a game of chance of where it's going to land, how it's going to land, and if you can even control on the return hit to get it to not fly out or something. And I wondered, I did ask, because she does this podcast with a couple of other people, a trainer and a coach, and they talk about different things. And I said, maybe you could explain how you deal with a game like that or match like that. How do you deal with it? How do you ever handle it or get on top of it when it becomes just chance, good luck, bad luck? Even though Mark Twain wrote a short story, expressing that there is no such thing as luck, and maybe it isn't. Maybe we have that kind of control, or maybe they could do exercises of learning to, have somebody just hit the ball so hard at them repeatedly to learn better how to get it back, to keep in control still when it's coming at such force. Or maybe they did have hot paddles. There's a certain kind of paddle that is supposed to be now not used that takes the sport to that level of just being a basher game, a violent kind of force game. And if you don't have the hot paddles and then when you do have the hot paddles, there's, people have injuries. And if you like a sport more for the intellectual and intrigue of it, then you won't want to play that. It becomes a more violent sport than a more vulgar sport, if you will. Less spiritual, where you're using other faculties of mind, heart, body, and soul to play it. And you're mostly channeling your energies in the temporal, tangible, physical way. Not really using the heart, well, a little bit the emotions to get worked up, to really be aggressive, to have aggression, rather than being an assertive player, which is a higher level thinking skill and decision making skill and creative skill. In reading, even it is. But then in the world, we're dealing with people of all types, see. That's where I was going with it later, just trying to practice my spiritual exercise here of, if I took away my human view and images and have God's, I would have seen blurs of energy out there, light and energy darting around, and intention. God sees intention and motive. He sees the heart, he sees the emotion, he sees the purposes of the minds. And I'm going to start praying for a greater sensitivity of accurately understanding people's minds and intentions and motives, because then I'll be able to understand and react in love better. Especially with these, because I think I was going to the thing that they were just aggressors, aggressive warriors. Um, I didn't see the combatants looking like they enjoyed it. It was just like evil force, just guttural bodily force. And my daughter and her, I mean, they work out. They're ripped, I guess, as you call it. Their muscles are all buffed up. And the actually more so, I think, than maybe the others. The other one of the others was younger. Both of them were younger than my daughter and her partner, but um, you know, they probably could body lift as much or whatever they do to train. Um, so yes, it was just give some ideas, or if you all are, just let me know if you're trying to take a segment of your day of something that you involve yourself in. Another aspect I have is my interactions, like when I went on the errands, my interactions with the people, trying to see them as spiritual beings with souls and intellect, will, and all these components, emotions, their feelings, their what their image of what they see me as, and or what they remember me as. Like one of the clerks at the Home Depot know me for 5 years now, over 5 years, and what they perceive. They thought I looked much better. I put on some weight, probably from binging on these fruity ice cream bars. High calorie, but it's, I've put on a few pounds, and that's good. My pants aren't falling off of me. Um, so yeah, but I tried to set more my motive, my intention of helping. I noticed to notice things, and this one clerk was limping, and I said, "What's happened to your knee?" It was her knee, actually her left one, just like mine. Well, it was her arthritis. She has like rheumatoid arthritis, and it was really acting up. She was in terrible pain, and she says, "I'm just taking so much ibuprofen." Well, I immediately told her about castor oil and wrapping it. I showed her my puppy pad that I have, a puppy pad that I wrap. And I said, "I know it looks sort of ridiculous," but I said, "I'm sort of beyond what I look like too much. I rarely go out. Who sees me? They do, and they know me, and they understand I'm in pain." But I then later walked back there, because I thought, oh, Amazon sells the pads that look decent that she could put around her knee to keep the oil from going all over every place, leaking onto her clothes and things. And they're washable somehow. And so I went back and told her. She says, "Oh, good." She says, "Because I really don't want to." She says, "Not that I care about it, but I don't want to have my knee looking so silly, or whatever." And I said, "Well, I understand you're working in the public and all." And she's putting in I was going to put in an Amazon order today. And she says, "I'm going to include that in. And thanks for telling me about that, a castor oil. Because it does, if I go for a day without having my knee wrapped and just literally pouring the castor oil on it, I have a gallon of it I use, and put it in this little quart-sized squirt bottle. And it takes the pain down within an hour doing the swelling, so that I can walk on it. And I'm not up all night with it throbbing." So she was just very grateful for that, and said a second time, "I just want you to know how much I appreciate you caring." So see, that I felt I was in tune with her being a spiritual soul, with her outer senses hurting her so much, affecting her inner, affecting her life, her enjoyment of living here in this world. And she really did mean it. She was appreciative. So what a beautiful soul she has to be grateful. And I was praising God to even give me the wherewithal to notice, that she limped and was hurting, and to ask and things, to do that, to go out of myself enough that I wasn't like stuck on where I hurt or what I was getting, or I was doing returns actually. And, so God is blessing me with this spiritual self thing. I'm getting it. But now the big work, and it is work, the more I am so used to temporal, or I'm sort of caught between a lot. I bounce back and forth, like with that pickleball match, because I had my very tangible, temporal, external, low level reaction. I've really sort of ticked off, and and I had to ask myself, would I have been ticked off if my daughter was on that other team that was doing the bashing? And I realized, yes, I would have been, because I didn't enjoy that type of sport. I'm not although I know if I got into boxing, I would probably understand the finesse with that too. But I think even though it isn't just a beat down, they don't do, they want to have finesse also with certain punches and ways they do it. But now and then, there will be somebody who will do just the more vulgar aggression, because all our souls are different. It's going to help me to have compassion and understand, and to curb my reaction of anger or resentment, that lower kind of emotion that also then can sap some of the enjoyment of our day. It probably took me an hour to sort of sort through, and not that I was like, but to sort of get rid of the weight that I felt, the disappointment, that feeling of disappointment. That stayed with me for about an hour, even though I went ahead with the errands, and it didn't affect my functioning or my thanks be to God. It didn't affect my interactions with people in the store. Um, and unfortunately, I remembered to run an errand that my daughter needed, which um, I'm grateful she asked, because it's not been the easiest situation at times. So, um, but yeah, so this is sort of, it's sort of fun to um, practice soul school and understanding, and um, learning and growing spiritually and in love, in pure love. What does pure love of God consist of? And how can we live it in our everyday lives? So that was sort of what I wanted to talk over. It's probably, maybe it's nothing you're into, but just the activity of it, and of learning to understand other people and their souls, and to come to understand that people will be at different levels of their own understanding or recognition of God and of love, and that our purpose is to learn to love. That this all takes some effort, some awareness. First comes the awareness and letting it sink in, then comes the practice lessons of applying it to our daily lives. The comprehension level, then we can talk about it, recall, and express it some to others, so it really sinks in the reality of our beings and what we are and what the world is, a spiritual realm filled with matter and temporal, tangible matter that depending on our love and our appreciation, our emotions, our understanding can be beautiful matter or not so beautiful or not so good, and then how we utilize it. It's all gift of God, and an all gift of God's Spirit. It is God's Spirit that creates all. God's Spirit that gives us emotion of feeling good or feeling icky. And so anyway, it's just sort of an interesting thing that I wanted to sort of discuss the thought processes of what I was trying to learn and to move through. And I ended up with a love of all of it, through understanding that, we're not going to have a perfect situation. Not until everybody's evolved spiritually and understands that we're spiritual beings, and then to further develop our aspects of us that are spiritual, the emotions, the spirit of the emotions, and the Spirit of God that's in our memory and in our images of what we perceive of others. The more we make it all love of the clerks, love of the customers, see them in eyes of love and heart of love. And even when they do things that are not loving themselves, then to understand that they are beings, spiritual beings, at different levels of understanding love, or through their own wills and intellect of choosing not to be loving, choosing to be aggressive. Not that the game was that they were playing because they didn't love. No, they wanted to win. That's understood. I'm not. That is an issue. There again, it's that old adage, though, of it's how you play the game. Well, everyone maybe sort of has to agree. Let's all play with finesse and strategy and using strength. But let's not play just an aggression battering game. But that might be hard to get everyone to agree to, especially when the tangible, temporal love of money gets involved, and of ego, of wanting to be gold instead of silver. See, the competitive spirit that can be a good spirit or get overblown into being evil and cheating even or something. They didn't cheat, I don't think. Sometimes they will, they'll call a ball out when it's not really out. And I don't think England had yet, because it's not as advanced. It's caught on in the United States because this pickleball game was started here, invented here. And then it has grown in other countries, but they didn't have cameras on the lines over there. So there were a couple balls that would have been challenged, but they didn't challenge because they didn't have the proof to be able to win their challenge or not. The different players would, the different teams would now and then, I could see, well, no, that ball, oh no, that was out when it was really in or on the line. From seeing from where the cameras were way back, filming the whole court, so anyway, but this is the reality, see. It's not just a matter of us knowing that we are spiritual beings and knowing that and enjoying that aspect, and that the world is spiritual. It's of putting into application. And not only application, but how we respond then to others and react. And then above all, how we grow in love to become more pure loving in pure ways, and automatically, rather than having to go through all this work exercise I'm going through of figuring it all out and trying to learn, how it all fits into the spiritual, and honest spiritual too, to get my emotions of knowing one of the players out, because that did affect my reaction, my love, my especial love of 46 years for this one spiritual being out there. In fact, more than that, I loved her when she was in my womb. Loved her with the thought of having a baby. So yes, and all my children, it's that way. And pure love would I would love the others a lot more, but I don't think God expects us to not have a special love given the relationship. But that's the kind of love we want with God, is that special love. And eventually, yes, with all people, to be so purely love that we automatically feel that love no matter who it is. And that's created through developing empathy for people, understanding and suffering with them. I made great strides with my daughter's partner watching her, and when that ball hit her in the nose, hit her paddle so hard that it flipped into her face and hit her nose, and she reacted with very obvious pain, and then had a towel and was and looking at their blood, and no, but it affected her, and was overdone, and I didn't see the others apologize. Usually now at the end toward the end she had accidentally hit an opponent, and immediately my daughter's partner that was in the game that they won, but immediately said, "I'm so sorry." You could just see her movements, and the announcer said she's immediately apologized. Didn't mean for that to happen. But it can happen when you get into the bashing games. But I had compassion, and I started praying for a partner, and also praying for God to please let me come to full embrace, full forgiveness, full letting that other go. And it did. It just finally left I had my compassion that I would have for anyone hurt, and was so grateful that they were playing together. And I also had texted my daughter beforehand when she said who her partner was. I said, "You are my mentor. You are so far beyond in forgiving and in love." I said, you are a holy heart soul. And because, for what she went through, and just moved through it, and was partnering. And so it's, we can see it. We can also see where we want to be in someone else. I wanted to have that kind of attitude, and I hadn't even been the one to have it happen to me. But I have such empathy for my daughter, see, I sort of laughed at myself, and then texted that hashtag mom fan. I'm probably her biggest fan. So anyway, this is the stuff I'm trying to do now with interactions in the world, and especially the ones that I recognize that I'm still having very temporal, tangible, external emotion feelings that are negative, that are obstacles to love, to pure love. So I want to grow and be aware, and I'm praying for that. And God bless His real presence in us. Please leave comments and any experiences you're having, or stumbling blocks, or tips that you can help me with to grow in pure love more, and in figuring out and adapting the spiritual. to all of my daily comings and goings and existing.